Are you ready? Okay, I'd like to call the Sustainability Commission meeting to order on November 18th, 2025. Will staff do the roll call?
Would you like to do it for the last time?
Sure. I'll just remember everybody off the top of my head.
You can do that all night long.
Yeah.
You can do that all night long. Is that how you want it to be special?
Yes. Chair Rotner.
Present.
Vice Chair Alexander.
President.
Commissioner Barrett.
Present.
Commissioner Cohn. Present. Commissioner Deirdre.
Present.
Commissioner Boyd. Present. Commissioner Frick.
Here.
Commissioner Rotner. Oh,
Present.
no, we already called you. Sorry. Commissioner Walker. That's what I meant to say. I was looking at you because the name has the same number of syllables. That's who's here. I can't remember if there's anyone else on the list.
Nope, that's it.
I thought
We
that was
actually
everyone.
have
Yeah, we
everybody here.
have full attendance. Thank you all.
That's great. So thank you everyone for coming. I think we have some guest speakers. Thanks for members of the public coming. Was hoping Flynn was here to come, but it sounds like he's not going to be here. So the next item is acceptance of the agenda. Did anyone have any questions, comments, additions, deletions? Hearing none, let's move on to the presentation, which is the active transportation.
Oh, great. Let's see about that.
Yeah, just come sit up here.
We have 20 minutes allotted for you.
We don't need
We're
20
gonna
minutes.
be
faster. Okay.
We'll make the
Great.
meeting much shorter.
No, just-
I'm Fred Ross, and this is John Siegel, and we're members of a committee that's been meeting for over a year. That we're looking to be formalized as an ad hoc committee of the commission. We call ourselves the Active Transportation Committee, and we have a mission statement, so I'll read you that and then kind of give you a reason of why we exist. Palm Springs Active Transportation mission is to enhance livability and sustainability through a connected network of safe, inviting, walking and biking routes that promote community vitality, public health, and improved connections to business. So once upon a time, a good decade ago or so, Palm Springs was kind of doing really well with active transportation, bike lanes. We've got a fair number now. Everything was moving along well, but it kind of died off. Cities around us, excuse me, Cathedral City has an active transportation plan. Other cities are kind of moving beyond us in a lot of that work. And we've been sitting here kind of watching it. So we've been meeting for the last year, thinking of things we can do. And we have a number of projects we're looking at that we'd like to work on with the city to kind of enhance and bring back our reputation as a really good city for active transportation. We have a couple plans, issues that we're working on. I'll let John talk about a couple of those.
Okay, thanks. I'm John Siegel. The way we're looking at this, the overview of the way we're looking at this is to not make it a grandiose, open-ended thing. We've delineated a bunch of specific projects that we can get done. We have about a half a dozen or so that we've been discussing with city management and a couple of the city council members who are promoting this. One of them is, let me see here, we were talking about, one of them is coordinating with the various groups around, governmental groups and community groups regarding CV Link along North Riverside. Polishing that up to be able to make it friendlier for pedestrians in the neighborhood is important, and we want to make sure that that's a safe, usable place, because we've got all of a sudden CV Link showing up on North Riverside. Another project that's very important to us is making sure that we address the needs of Desert Highlands. It turns out that there has been an informal understanding between groups that there would be a connector between James O'Jesse and the new CV Link that we just had the ribbon cutting for. It turns out that it sort of fell through the crack, and we want to make sure that it happens. Those are the sorts of things that we're working on.
And one more that I just met with Commissioner Reddy about this morning is the city is getting ready to finalize the engineering and put out for bid the road diet on South Palm Canyon. Excuse me, Matt.
I'm working on it.
The
Road diet, and we're gonna
Diet,
add
okay, sorry.
bicycle lanes on either side of South Palm Canyon. South Palm Canyon lines up with Bellardo, which is kind of the north-south connector for the city for bikes, because it goes right into downtown. It's a really, many of them are Sharrows, and there's nice big bike lanes for those. we got a copy of the city engineering plans and it has no plan for connecting those two. And they're literally, there's just feet between them. So I met with Commissioner Reddy this morning about that. And that's something we want to work on as well, is making sure that we make a safe interchange there between Bellardo and South Palm Canyon. There's also a newly formed business district in the curve there. They're probably going to join in with us and work on that as well, because in the bigger picture, we want it safe for all the community members walking to their stores and all that. So we want to work with business districts. We want to work with different various groups like on the CV Link in North Riverside. That's where we're going. Any questions?
So commissioners, you'll note that on our agenda, we have a discussion item under new business to talk about the formation of the ad hoc subcommittee. So we can talk about that process then. But if anybody has any questions for our speakers about other things that you've seen, different types of perspectives around active transportation, now is a good time to ask those questions. We'll do Commissioner Jarda first and then Vice Chair. Thank you for using your tags tonight.
Are you, but thank you.
That's all good, yeah.
Working with like maybe the Blue Zone or anybody else?
We are. In fact, on the Bellardo, South Palm Canyon, we've talked to them about possibly helping to fund a redesign and do a little bit of a study or something. So yeah, we're definitely in contact with them.
They're in a process right now that you guys are probably familiar with, that they're looking for proof of concept ideas, and we've fielded a few of those with them.
And the planning commission as well, or
Haven't talked to
are
the
they-
planning commission.
I'm just wondering.
That would be slightly out of scope for
Is it
them
for
on some
them?
of these specifics, so engineering department
Transportation.
probably more.
Unless
Yeah,
it was an
they-
approval of.
Yeah, they do very high level, like if there were a new development coming in, then maybe that would be a
Then that's-
conversation.
There is one project coming down the road, the convention center, and tying the convention center by foot and other than cars, ability to get into downtown and then tie to the CV Link. We'd like to be involved in that as well. And I've talked with Wayne Olson and a couple other people about how we can tie into that, because that perfectly fits active transportation.
Vice Chair?
So I'm wondering, at Vista Chino and Dinah Shore, we have the gap or two busy roads. Has anyone addressed that? Because you come down off of Dinah Shore, CV Link, you come down and you're right at Dinah Shore.
Oh, you're talking about the Ramona crossing?
No,
The CV Link goes
where-
under.
It's at Dinah Shore, yeah, is there?
I think
And
there's
Vistino's
one
the same way.
farther south is what you're east on Dinah Shore.
Yeah, it's just as you get to the bridge in the wash. CV Link,
Goes under Dinah Shore.
There,
does it go under? I can't tell. It
There's
goes
an
under.
awkward position. You can keep going towards Cathedral City, or it kind of splits and kind of dead ends there, right?
Yeah, it looks like it did.
But it looks like there's a sidewalk.
this brings up a larger issue, and that's
What are
the,
you finding?
that's that we.
Sorry to
we-
interrupt.
That's okay, no, that's fine.
There's a general sense that we need to make sure that we have functional wayfinding so that especially visitors know what to do. What you guys are pointing to that's visible from traffic is there are curb cuts to get down into CV Link. However, many of the CV, I would say the majority of the CV Link users don't access CV Link via those curb cuts. There's a curb cut by where the driving range is on Crossley. There's that connects to the main CV Link artery that goes under Dinah Shore.
Okay, because you can't, I've been on this section, I'm gonna call it the Cena side
Mhm.
of CV Link, but on
Yes.
the other side, you have to cross the Chino, and that,
Um,
I
Chino
have been
has
there.
a crossing and Mr. Chino, you would cross at Asina. And they don't have it signalized yet.
yeah, see
That's
that,
the one
it's,
where,
it's days
Yeah.
away from, they tell us,
If you go down to Ramon, then you're stuck, then you're.
so
on
Ramon,
your
they're
own.
actually working right now on doing the underpass.
Oh, okay.
They're doing a temporary underpass. Well, they said it was gonna be temporary, but it is, sure is concrete.
oh my
It's
goodness.
beautiful,
It's,
because they're gonna be redoing that bridge sometime in the next 4 or 5 years.
I think just kind of, they're not done. CV Link is not
No.
done. So they have a lot more work to do.
And
There's
what
signals
John
and
said,
stuff that are slow.
wayfinding is really important, and not necessarily even just on CV Link, but within the city, about how to get to CV Link.
Yeah.
So that's work that's one of our items that we'd like to work on as well.
Chair, you
Yeah, just thinking about, and we may have this discussion under our second item, is how we see the commission working with the active transportation group in terms of how we're gonna be effective
help us
drivers
with-
of your goals. I think probably I can speak for all of us. We appreciate these goals and appreciate the work, the efforts that you're doing. I personally ride a lot around town. And I think we're all familiar with the issues that you have. So I think maybe on the next item of how we're gonna be effective to help push the cause. So I don't know what you're looking to see from us, I guess is kind of the question. What would you like to see from us in terms of how to help?
I would defer to your expertise with regard to the structure. We're here because city management has asked us to be here.
Okay.
They need, I mean, I think it's as simple as, Dr. Reddy and Mayor DeHart have been interested in a number of things that they've been communicating with us on, and the structure is not in place for them to be able to work with staff.
The way I understand it from talking with Commissioner Reddy this morning is that we present something to you, you take it to the city, and if a commissioner, any one of them, this is an item they want, they can agendize it. And then they can get that in front of the whole commission, and then it pushes it on. It's basically telling staff, we want this done, right? Is that?
I think
is that
so.
The plan? Okay.
Does that sound about right, LP?
I have some thoughts on a way to operationalize that I'm gonna save for the
Yeah.
discussion
Okay.
item. Just because I wanna kind of like, there's a whole big picture there. But I would say in terms of, maybe I might build on your question, what does success look like for you all in 2 years? What would be some examples?
For us?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've bulletized a number of bite-sized projects that are not open-ended. And success to us means actual physical progress on connecting the kids of Desert Highlands to be able to get onto CV Link without a police escort, on making sure that North Riverside is safe and enjoyable for the entire community, making sure that safety and usability is in place for things like CV Link.
Thank you, that's fair.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, I'd like to add to that, when they're doing projects like the road diet of South Palm Canyon, because it took me a long time to actually get the plans. I got the plans and it was kind of as I suspected. It doesn't finish. It just ends right, feet away from where it should go. That we can look at that and we can bring that to everybody's attention before the money is spent, because there have been mistakes in the past where they've actually redone a road and they have to go back and redo it because they forgot the bike lanes. So we kind of,
Sure.
and that's how this project came up, the Bellardo one, but just kind of have our eyes on those things.
And I can add to that there's been a general sense I think there's a general sense with the active transportation users, with pedestrians and cyclists, that things could happen if there was communication, and we hope to be able to bridge those gaps, to work with community groups, to work with businesses that we're it's a small town, we have friends. We want to make sure that the town is well served. One of the things that is sort of a larger goal, along the lines of what Fred just said, a larger goal than what we've delineated is that City Manager Stiles has suggested that we be in the front end of engineering, to be able to, at the concept phase of traffic engineering.
There's no more comments from commission. Let's move on. Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
You all want to be part of the discussion when we do the second, the business item.
Would you like us to?
I would say, feel free to stay if you
Yeah.
like, but if
Okay.
you can't, no worries. I'm gonna let you know, but I think it would be helpful probably.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. So now's public comments, and this is the time for members of the public to address the commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. The commission values your comments, but you cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. I'm not sure if there's anyone online or in the audience that wanted to speak. Okay. That was fast. Share comments. I just have a couple quick thank yous to LP and wishing her well on her new adventures. I know I've said that a couple times to you, but and to say no sorries. Vice Chair and myself met with Flynn Fagg, who's the deputy or assistant city manager, about the transition, and they have worked internally to Flynn. I think going forward will be joining us in the meetings here, and they've been working on getting support for Benito. And so I think, you know, it'd be a little bumpy for everyone, but I think it should go fairly smooth. Going into the holidays, things slow down, and then hopefully in the new year, we'll have some new staff moving forward. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Director McCloy for her last report.
Sure. Hi, everyone. You'll notice in the packet that you did not get your traditional memo because Benito and I have been noses to the grindstone trying to work on all of our transition planning. So I know we have agendized a little bit later, time to specifically talk about how we're handling transition things. So commissioners know and the public knows how we're maintaining the momentum going forward, which things we're going to be focusing on, which ones will be kind of having weave back in over time. So just wanted to talk about a couple of the other things that have been happening as we wind to the end of calendar year. So we are in the process of hiring new Christian. So our HR department will be reaching out to someone very soon if they haven't already. So looking to backfill on the staff specialist side. So that's, as you probably remember, how we've divided work here on the team. Benito and I have had the more generalist roles, and kind of in the middle, we have our more specialized roles of people who do policy and program implementation. So excited to hopefully have some good news to share very soon, and a new collaborator and partner in crime for Benito over here. So we've been hard at work on that. We have been focused a lot on getting the items that you'll see tonight ready for you, and also carrying the tree ordinance toward implementation. So tree ordinance is going to move forward in the very beginning of Q1. It's unclear specifically which meeting. You get to the end of the year with city council, it's tough because we've had one meeting in November, and we'll have one meeting in December, and that's kind of where they do the transition of the mayor. And so it's very, very limited agenda time that we have toward the end of the year. Particularly this year. Normally we have 2 November meetings. This year we only had 1. So that's part of the reason why you have not seen that moving forward yet, but beginning of Q1, you will see that. A number of beautiful resources, as you saw from Christian's presentation. So our public works, code, and planning departments are working together to do that presentation in Q1 of next year, because those are all of the implementing departments, with support from parks as well, because they are real stewards of trees. So that will be moving forward, and then shortly after that, we'll be able to attain our Tree City certification, which will be great. We also have been working a lot on REACH codes, which we will talk to you about in a little bit. We've been working closely with Desert Water to prepare for the non-functional turf rules and the California Conservation as a Way of Life rule set. We will actually have Desert Water come in December to give you a more in-depth presentation to the full group on that. We are preparing as a city to issue the RFP for the heat and shade study, which is really exciting. So we'll be collaborating with the planning department to do that until we have our new folks on board to help take that back over. But really looking to get our consulting support on board. So for those of you who aren't keeping up with the detailed Climate Action Committee reports, the support that we're looking at is for analytical support. So people who are good at modeling stuff, good at collecting and pulling data together, helping us analyze historical trends, pulling all of our different city studies that look at heat together, and our transportation plans, like our circulation element from the general plan, et cetera. All of those things will go together. And then someone with kind of community facilitation expertise, because it's as important for us to understand the lived experience of heat as it is for us to look at the data, because we might have discrepancies there. So for example, we might have data set that says that everywhere in the city is exactly the same temperature, but any of us who've ridden the bus in the summer can tell you that that's not true. So understanding kind of how people are making decisions in their transportation habits based on what are they deciding to do versus not do. How are they thinking about their access to a vehicle, access to active transportation of different types based on our And then someone also with like an urban planning lens to help us translate that data, that feedback, that experience into proposed interventions. So it'll probably be a team of consultants, I'm guessing, working together. But we also we have a lot of money, but we don't have infinite money. So we're probably going to look for some folks who are excited about the opportunity and willing to be a little crafty with us. So planning department and procurement department will be helping bring those people on board because it is fundamentally recommendations that will be implemented in planning and engineering documents going forward. And I'm going to turn it over to Benito to talk about a very exciting program of events that are coming up over the next couple of months. Yeah, you're just like looking at me like, girl, no, like.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Yes.
events, yes.
Okay, so one event that we have coming up that I mentioned prior was community cleanup. This one is actually going to be the biggest community cleanup we'll be doing. I've partnered us with Ben and Jerry's, who will be here doing a little conference in January. I believe it's the second week. The community cleanup will be January 9th on a Friday from 12 to 4, and we're expecting 250 participants. So right now, so right now what I'm working on is finding a location that we'll be able to bus them to, that'll be big enough to house them. I'm thinking the Janesville Jesse area, that's really the big empty lots that the wind just blows a lot of trash in there, and we'll be able to take care of that there. So more information will be coming on that. Any recommendations on locations, feel free to email me. I will take those into consideration as well. Another thing we have going on is a bottle drop off. An artist reached out and asked for our help with sustainability. They're a Palm Springs based environment artist. They're going to be doing art piece for a museum in San Bernardino, and they're collecting bottles, bleach bottles, detergent bottles, just any bottles. There'll be some bins set up in the front of City Hall with reception, and you'll just drop them off into the bin, and they'll be coming to collect until January 8th, Thursday. Yeah, Monday through Thursday, you can drop them off, and if you have any questions, the flyer will have what's accepted on there, and if something gets in there that's not supposed to, they'll take it and recycle it themselves. Yeah, and that is all.
Excellent, thank you very much. And I believe that is it that we wanted to report out on this month. We have a number of other things cooking in terms of projects going on in city buildings, various EV chargers that have a little ghost in them that I think I finally exercised, but we'll see. Does anyone have any questions or want to know about any topics that weren't mentioned?
Just, so going back to the heat and shade study, you may have mentioned this, but I may have.
That's good.
The target is to kick that off the kind of middle to end of Q1.
Yes, like to actually start the work.
Yeah, start the work.
Yeah.
So and the RFPs were out. I was trying to find my notes.
The RFP is probably going to go out right after Thanksgiving.
Okay, great.
I've got these two next in line. Was your question finished?
Yes.
Okay, yes, Vice Chair.
In the shade study, not sure how I want to ask the question, but I was at a meeting today where a lot of folks were upset that there isn't shade at the bus stops.
Mhm.
So I hope that study's.
That is the kind of thing that we would look at in the study. Yes,
Okay, good, all right.
I have a lot of opinions on that topic and I will say the study
You
will
should
look
have
at
heard
it.
the opinions I heard
I'm
today.
sure I would have. And if you can remember some of those opinions and ask those folks to share them with the study, that would be very much appreciated.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner.
Does the sort of management of the study go through the Climate Action Subcommittee? Does it go through?
Great question. So we are going to be working closely with the commissioners to help us form a community advisory group. The natural fit of that is for the Climate Action Subcommittee to form the basis of that, but we will have to stay within Brown Act rules, but it doesn't just have to be that subcommittee. It won't, because I think we'll have a sort of like a community advisory that meets less frequently than the subcommittee does, because we're probably going to ask members of the community to also participate. Maybe a council member, maybe some public health representatives, community representatives from different neighborhoods. So there'll definitely be an opportunity for any commissioners who'd like to get more involved there to jump in and be part of that. But Climate Action Subcommittee is probably where you'll hear the most regular updates on the on the study, but this group will also receive those too. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we're on to old business, and the one topic is the energy efficient upgrade ordinance, which Staff.
Yes. So we'll also be joined by former Commissioner David Friedman, who is a consultant to us on this ordinance. So I'm going to give you a relatively high level because as you'll notice in the agenda, we have not asked for a vote on this tonight. We are instead asking for direction, as you probably got from your packet. Many of you will remember very fondly a moment last year, November and December, where we voted to approve this and send it to the city council. A wild and incredible time, where our commission had dug very deeply into some of the challenges that we forecasted and some of the reasons that we still wanted to move forward with the ordinance. And we were ready to go. And then a number of things happened that I've talked to all of you about. So one was we got a little out of order and a little out of sync on some of our stakeholder feedback. So we spent some time at the beginning of this year working closely with the tribe, working closely with the Desert Valley Builders Association. We will continue to reengage these groups because we sort of didn't know where the council was at on this particular issue. But we have brought all the pieces back together to look at it again. The other thing that was happening that you all probably remember because we did a letter about it is that the state threatened to ban reach codes for everybody. So that was a little stumble, not awesome, and did cause us to have to do a couple of little sideways around things. And so as a result of all of that, we're looking at a remarkably similar yet targetedly different version of the reach code this evening. And part of the reason I've got this on the agenda is I want to make sure that I can kind of get everything out of my head into your heads. David will continue to work with the team. We just had a good transition meeting and handoff with our housing team, who is going to be working closely to support the reach code alongside the program that I've been telling you guys about that we got the council money for to do direct install improvements for energy efficiency in low income homes. So just to step back, as you'll remember in the ordinance, low income homes, historic homes, a couple of other categories are automatically exempted. But we want to make sure that everybody in the city has access to the benefits of energy efficiency and these improvements. So we asked the council to give us some money from one of these secret bank accounts that we had. And we don't really have that many of those. It was just some savings from last year that we didn't spend. And to be able to actually just directly do the reach code type work in low income homes. So that's moving on one path. And then the other path for people who would be required to do so would be subject to the ordinance on the point of renovation. So as you'll note in the staff report, we have a couple of things that we've changed. So one is you'll see a lot more preamble language. The reason for the preamble language is because that is what we were required to do to comply with the state's new rules around reach codes. So if it is committed to in a general plan that existed before the state budget was passed, you can still do it. Luckily, it's very explicit in our general plan. I'm seeing a concerned face. Okay, sorry. I was just like, did I not send a
My
document?
thinking face.
No,
My
that's
tired thinking face.
No, please feel free. I was just like, yeah. I have been so disorganized over the past week that I'm like, did I not send this document? Was
No,
the
you sent
concern
it, yes.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Love to hear that. Let's continue. Sorry about that.
No worries.
And so, so the preamble language is longer because we've listed all of the ways in which our city has committed to undertake reach codes for renovations in our published existing plans that existed before the state budget process happened. We also looked at a couple of targeted things. You may remember Juliet did some really great analysis looking at the expected costs to apply the reach code to certain types of common projects. So one thing that we see a lot of in Palm Springs is roof replacements. Even if you're not doing a fancy roof replacement, it's kind of expensive. It probably costs somewhere if you're replacing the whole roof, it's probably a $30,000 project, which means that it does trigger within the reach code a decent number of points that you need to get. And sort of the theory behind the flex path is that you should be able to get the points by doing work that is relatively similar to the work you're already doing, because it's cheaper to do a new project once you've already started to do, like it's cheaper to, do a cool roof when you're already looking at your roof as opposed to like doing them separate. Roofing was one of the things that we found was actually kind of hard to get all the points that you would need based on the project value using things that were related to roofing. So as an example, in the reach code, we now have a relatively prescriptive path for roofing, which says if you're re-roofing, do a cool roof. That is going to save you money. It is cost effective in our region. So that's one of those targeted changes that we made to simplify for one of those common project types that was a little bit harder to satisfy with some of those other things. Another thing that you'll see is when we look at kitchen renovations, also kind of a tricky thing because you're not really doing you're not touching a lot of building systems necessarily, but what you are doing is probably looking at your electrical wiring. So adding electrification readiness as the primary requirement for something like a kitchen renovation, if you're touching certain systems within the kitchen. So you'll see that as an update, that streamlines that piece. And it's like, if you're gonna be redoing your kitchen, you should make sure that you're ready for that induction stove. Even if you don't wanna put it in right now, you should add in that 200, 220, 240, the upgraded laundry level outlet. So those are a couple of examples of those targeted changes that we made in response to some of the concerns around this is very complicated, this could get very expensive very quickly. We still want to, and also have to maintain the point system flexibility to allow people to have, not be boxed into certain system requirements. There are state supreme or regional circuit court decisions that say we can't specify what fuel we use, so we can't do an electric only provision, we can't do an electric only code due to regional court decisions. But also, people might have a lot of different ways that they're going to kind of reach the same goal. So one other thing that you also see, which is interesting, is reference to a home energy score. So this is something that's also growing across the state. It's a regional program from the Bay Area that's now had funding to go statewide. You can get an energy score for your house, kind of similar to how you can get a health score for your restaurant. You can go in and have a professional rater come out and take a look, and they use a number of criteria to assess your home, and they'll tell you out of 10 how energy efficient your house is based on like your insulation, your wall thickness, your systems, et cetera. If you can prove based on having someone else do it, not just you going on a website and being like, oh, I swear I have a 7, which you could do if you wanted, but it's not allowed in the ordinance. If you can prove that your house has a high energy score, because maybe you just got a weird house, maybe you're not using a lot of, my house doesn't have gas already, so it automatically makes my score a little bit higher. That can exempt you from some of the requirements if you have a high enough energy score. So that's a new provision we also added for people who are like, I really think that my house is doing pretty good. If you can have a professional verify and say that it's doing pretty good, great. Then you've pretty much already hit the goals of the REACH code. So you shouldn't need to do any more work. So those are some of the targeted changes that we made. You'll also note that in the staff report, I outlined another kind of lever that we can tweak with the ordinance, which is how many projects do we want to be subject to this? So right now, it still goes down to the $25,000 projects. That's where it kicks in. You could have a choice to start smaller. Say you want to look at just the $100,000 plus projects because you really are trying to get into those gut renovations, those big things where it really is that great opportunity to go in and look at that floor insulation, to go in and look at that window and the HVAC, all those things together. Those are the projects that are currently required to get the most points. We could start there and then over time expand the window of make it so that cheaper projects now have to also comply. The downside of that is that it's not a huge number of projects every year that we're getting. So it's just the trade-off of like, do we want to start a little bit bigger or do we want to start small and grow out? That could be a way to make it a little bit simpler to get kind of acceptance for the ordinance, get people comfortable with the ordinance, and avoid some of the kind of like consequences that people might be worried about there. So we're kind of looking for direction from you all this evening on those two fronts. One is, how do you feel about the kind of targeted changes that we've made? The second is, how do we feel about this idea of, do we shrink the target audience to start, or do we keep it rather broad and have these like more simple pathways going forward? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Boyd,
I have a quick
go to town.
question.
Let's go.
So I'm sort of thinking, if we go narrow versus wide
Mhm.
in terms of the number of projects, is there a staffing / bureaucracy / oversight, I'm thinking as we transition as well, is it a situation where it doesn't matter in terms of the amount of effort and work, or does it matter immensely?
It is a really good question. I don't fully know the answer. My hunch is that 80% of the work remains, whether it's a small group of projects or a large group of projects. Because we're going to have to to build in the expertise to do the plan reviews for this, to add the additional inspections. I think where it would make a difference in that last 20% is you just have fewer projects you have to look at. It also could reduce the complexity by basically meaning that you're really only looking at this on whole building or like pretty major projects. Although people love to come in with an $800,000 bathroom remodel, and I'm like, well, go to town. The place where I might not, or the other consideration that has been raised that I think there are so many like confounding variables with this is whether people avoid getting a permit because there are additional steps. So you're less likely to be able to pull off a full home remodel without getting a permit. Whereas if you're doing sort of certain interior building systems and you see that if you get a permit, you might have to do all this extra stuff, does it make you less likely to do the permit? One could argue that there are many reasons why one might choose to avoid getting a permit that this might not be the final straw, but we do want to make sure that work is happening safely and in an inspected way. So those smaller dollar projects are where you might see someone more likely to kind of cut a corner than necessarily on a bigger project. But I think there is some staff time savings, especially in terms of how many things people are looking at. But largely the systems have to exist either way. But it's a good question. What other questions do folks have?
I have a question about commercial versus residential.
Sure.
Yeah. And I just can't remember if focusing on, I don't know if it was in a conversation I had with you and
Councilmember Bernstein.
yeah, about the higher the impacts of commercial versus a residential. I may not be permanent.
Sure.
Like, what are we gonna focus on first?
Mhm.
Who's the biggest need for, like, I see, so one of my questions, concerns about this is that I have tried to do what your reach code is doing, and I can't do it because it's too much money. I need a panel upgrade. That alone is close to $20,000. So trying to get this done for people, I'm specifically for lower income people that may have, like, I know people do roofs, redo roofs, and they don't get a permit. So you're gonna have that challenge regardless. Like, how do you make it cost effective for people to get this stuff done is, and the people with larger, I mean, I think if you're gutting, there's a lot of homes right now that are being gutted and remodeled. That's the easy time to do it, and it's less, I think there's less of an impact.
More of
when
an
you're doing
economy
all
of
this.
scale.
Yeah, economy of scale. So I just, that's kind of my concern is for the middle, lower income folks that will struggle anyway.
Sure.
But also, where's the biggest impact for, I can't remember where I read this somewhere, is that commercial uses a lot. Hotels, commercial districts really need to improve their energy efficiency. So can we focus on those energy, not wasters, but, you know, and improve their efficiencies? So
Yep.
that's my only, I mean, I think it's a great, I love this concept. I think we have to do it, but just how do we get it so people can afford, because everything's so expensive.
Sure. There's a few implied questions in there. I'm gonna maybe work
Yeah.
backwards a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah, a lot.
And then I want to make sure we kind of continue, so if other folks have things they want to add too. So with regards to the question of commercial versus residential, the thing is, it's a yes and, we have to do all of it. We had some momentum kind of coming in, already looking at residential, but part of the reason we want to really focus on residential is we have more residential buildings. There just are more of them. And also when we think about our intersecting goals around helping people become more resilient and adapted to climate change, having more efficient buildings, especially here in Palm Springs, we got some leaky buildings out here. Everybody's got this single pane glass, HVAC on the roof, like, it's like, so we're seeing really high energy bills. We're seeing people not running their AC during heat waves, so it's a public health issue. It's like, there's a number of different things. So like, yes, I agree that it is a more difficult set of projects to start with. The reason we're continuing to focus on it is because there are so many buildings that are built before the code, and we know, but at the same time, we have also been starting to put the pieces in place. And so Next Me can continue in working with our housing department for commercial buildings, because you're right that you do actually get a bigger bang for your buck per building. However, the use types of the buildings are also different and the characteristics of the buildings are different. So you take a different approach to working with commercial buildings. Even though this reach code looks like there's a lot of flexibility, it's relatively prescribed compared to what you would do for a commercial building, which would basically be to set either an energy use intensity target, which is basically how much energy do you use per square foot, or you can do the same thing for carbon. You could do carbon per square foot, and tell the building is like, okay, you got to do 10% less starting next year. You got to do 15% in 2 years. So that's the kind of thing that I think would be a good next step to work on. And we just have fewer of those buildings by number here, but they
Yeah.
will be very impactful. So we do need to do all of it. In terms of the costs, Karen Fear, representative, or enrollees are exempted from this reach code, which is depending on the year, somewhere between 15 to 30% of Palm Springs residents. However, a lot of those are renters. So it's harder for me to make a direct analogy to how many homeowners are on Karen Fear. I don't have that data, but it is theoretically knowable, but maybe a little bit hard to know. And the second piece is twofold. One is we do still see rebates available for certain things, though I know, Bernard, from your experience, or Chair Rodner, there's not a rebate for everything. There's not a rebate for floor insulation. And so those are things definitely to look at. Other cities also who've implemented a flex path have implemented cost caps. So basically saying, if having to hit these points makes your project more than 20% more expensive, you don't have to do anything beyond that particular cost cap. The problem there is that introduces not problem, but the additional thing that one has to do is that introduces a new level of variability in the analysis. So it's like, how do you prove that it really is 20% more expensive? Or, who's doing that calculation to track that data, that kind of thing. So there are things we could do in terms of adding cost caps, which if the commission felt like they wanted to give staff direction to do that, that is something we could definitely do. Did I address most of your questions? Okay. I saw Commissioner Boyd, I saw Commissioner Duda, and I see Vice Chair. Somebody
You
go in that order.
answered my question.
Okay.
In your response to.
And you answered my question on the rebates and, so yeah.
Great, okay, good then. Vice Chair.
Okay, I'm up.
Yes.
So just out of curiosity, like where I'm at, they're literally building 25 townhomes and there'll be like 1,100 homes out there.
Right.
So will these codes apply to these houses now so
Good
that
question.
they're not being built and then all of a sudden, oh, you have to go back and that wouldn't fly?
Yeah. So the current building, so the REACH code basically tries to get buildings up to roughly the 2010 energy code level of compliance. Is that correct, David?
Yeah,
Ish.
probably.
Little-
And they
little beyond.
would take them up to, it's been updated to
Mhm.
basically take them to get all the points, you're basically up to the 25 code, but it sort of depends on there.
Mhm.
But anything that's being built now is subject to the council will get the 25 code at the next meeting. So we have anything that's new construction is subject to the energy code, and this fills in the gap to take older houses and bring them closer to code to what you'd get for a new building.
So the newer buildings are built in a very energy efficient manner. They are electric ready, really high levels of efficiency. In 25 years, are we gonna think that it needs to go farther? Probably. But we are relatively confident that I think we'll start reaching like a curve of like, we gotta do a little less kind of work. Cause we'll eventually get to close to a passive house standard, which basically means you're minimizing the energy inputs for the house and you're doing almost zero fossil fuel. So like theoretically, yes, in the future, we'll probably need to make some updates, but I don't anticipate, because we're currently doing catch up for 50 years of building code
Yes, right.
plus 50 years of buildings that were built even before they had codes at all. So point taken, but I think those I'm a little less worried about because they're built pretty efficiently.
The other question again is, to go along with Bernard, is low income people, because I go over to James
Mhm.
Jesse, that area, it's low income, and you go to them and say, you have to put a cool roof on. They don't have the money.
Sure. And so that's why we have those kind of bifurcated paths. So one is anybody who's got CARE and FERA, which is the low income electricity rates, is automatically exempted from the codes.
Okay.
The second piece is we have the council funding for the direct install program, which is going to be targeting those people who are exempt from this. We're going to be looking to go and actually do that work in their homes. So that might be an area, we have like a little decision matrix that our IT team built with us, like a little map that shows us buildings that haven't had any building permits pulled in a while and that are a certain age, that is before the codes went into place. And based on other environmental and demographic factors mean that they might be good candidates for us to go look at and help work on that house. You'll see there are pockets in this, they're pretty scattered throughout the city, but there are pockets that you see more where we know that the building quality, people could probably use some help bringing that building quality up. And that's why we already have an existing home repair program just for regular repairs for the city that we're building this on top of. So that's how we're gonna hope to address that type of space. There's some complexities also with like rental, single family homes and things that we've got to figure out, but that's kind of the approach there. Yes.
Do you have a number of what a type of dwelling you're talking about right now?
For the direct install program,
Yes.
it depends on whether we do a little bit of work in a lot of houses or a lot of work in a little bit of house. So that's something that we're probably going to figure out once we have an implementation team on board as a consultant. I am guessing we'll probably do somewhere in the neighborhood of not insignificant work on about 75 to 100 homes. That money.
With the news
Yeah.
and the feelings that are being expressed, affordable housing is a huge issue.
Yep.
And it seems to me that it would be helpful to have incentives in some way
Sure.
to have people be more willing to take a risk and financially to do this. And it still worries me that it's about the affordability.
Yeah. And so that's something we've also, so Desert Community Energy put up some money as well to help support adoption of the REACH codes. Our teams are still working together to figure out where they would offer a specific incentive and rebate to kind of almost help people pre-adopt the REACH code. Like say, for example, we know we have early adopters in Palm Springs. Many of them are sitting here on this commission. They're people who are already doing this work. Or sitting here as a consultant to our project. And so if we offer some money to people who are willing to go above and beyond, I would be more willing to do that than necessarily kind of say, okay, we passed this law and we're gonna give an incentive to someone to pass the law. But as we're working out the kinks internally, as we're seeing really, getting more data about, okay, are our assumptions correct that this is how much this type of project costs? Because maybe in the valley, doing project A is actually really cheap, or maybe it's super expensive because there's no one locally who will do the work. And so, getting people to be those early adopters and help us do it first, I think is what we're hoping to look at with some of the funding that Desert Community Energy put up for incentives here.
This is not exactly, that's the same strain, but it seems to me that if that people don't know about this.
Yes.
And the brief description that you gave at the beginning of your oral report was much more simple to understand than reading that 27-page
Sure, ordinance
document.
document, yes.
And so it would seem to me that there has to be a major educational experience in letting people know that these opportunities and really help them understand how it would change your quality of life. Because when you get to the other part of the report, you might want to just pack up your house and leave. The earthquakes and the heat and all of that, that was pretty depressing.
Sure, absolutely, yeah, noted. And so that definitely agree. So one of the reasons that we're excited about doing the direct, what we call the direct install program, which is the one where we go do the work, and this kind of as sibling projects, is that it allows us to build out that story over time. So it's like, we're gonna be going to people and saying, hey, we wanna do these kind of upgrades in your house because we think it's gonna help reduce your energy bills. We think it's gonna make you more comfortable inside. It's gonna reduce how much dust gets into your house. It's going to help you be more prepared for the house of the future. And then, kind of as we build that story with the projects that we're doing, it makes it easier for us to build out that educational awareness around. But, this is the kind of thing that I know this commission has given us great feedback on where to do that education in the past, to the extent that there are more ideas that you have, or even the fact that you're just like, hey, when you told it that way, that made sense to me. That's the kind of feedback that's really helpful for us to have to understand what are the pieces that are really resonating? How can we help this make sense? How can we help this feel useful and productive? So continue to keep those pieces of direction coming. It's very useful for our team as we build out that education. Other questions?
One other.
Yes.
Given the complexity of this, excuse me, voting for it to go on, which I'm planning probably to do, but how do we ensure that these kinds of things of making it more comprehensible and affordable, and how do we ensure that that will actually happen?
Yeah, good question. So I think that's something where the continued oversight that this commission provides is really important. So making sure that staff brings the RFP language back, making sure that staff brings, sends you the staff report. When the commission goes, if this goes before the council anytime in the next month or, couple months, not month or two, soonish, making sure that whenever the commission provides feedback to the council, whether that's in briefings before, if you're meeting with individual council members or in the meeting, stating that that's very important. If you don't see it and what staff is bringing forward, making sure you say it. And then providing support as the staff continues to build out those projects and policies. So I think using that, if we go way, way back to our commission orientation packet and thinking about the functions of the commission, informing and inspecting, I would say, are some of the I words that the commission would be well suited to provide that oversight. But I think the council would be the next group of people you would want to educate to make sure that that's true, and continuing to maintain some interaction with staff on it.
Thanks.
And housing, what was the person's name again?
Ariel.
Ariel's gonna be taking the lead on this. so-
Correct, from a subject matter perspective. So, and Ariel actually also leads all of our affordable housing program. So if you wanted to feel confident that affordability and achievability would be at the core of this and making sure it's an equitable process and project, Ariel's the person to make sure that happens.
I believe she spoke at was she on the panel with you?
She was, or no, not with me, but she spoke at the IREN.
Yeah,
There was like a regional symposium last year where she spoke about these kinds of housing issues
Yeah,
there from a
so-
green building perspective.
Very confident with her taking the lead, so. Any more questions?
So I will pivot to one of my points of staff direction, which is thoughts on whether we start big or start small. And, we don't have to take this as like a formal vote, but just sort of what is the commission's, I know I heard Commissioner Boyd's question about like, does that really make that much of a difference from an implementation perspective? What other thoughts do folks have on just kind of giving staff direction on how to focus? Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I think we should start big
Okay.
and then go small, because there's a lot of messaging issues that we have to work out and see what there's feedback from the community first and start there.
So starting with the bigger projects and then expanding out to
Yes,
small projects.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the affordability issue and the messaging is still, sounds like it's in progress.
Still
and an
growing.
issue. Yeah.
Helpful. Thank you very much. Concurrence, other thoughts?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing a lot of head nods.
I would agree with starting big, and at the same time, I know there is going to be a lot of backlash from smaller projects saying, hey, I'm doing something, but I'm not getting any support. Collecting the data and kind of churning it over and see, okay, if we have to do this for the smaller projects, we can have a better estimate and what we want to target with the smaller projects.
Sorry, I want to make sure I'm tracking properly. So if we're sort of saying start big, small later, or small second, does that mean that we're still requiring?
Correct. It would be requiring, but it would just, so when you look at the points chart and it's like for, $100,000 plus, you have to get a lot of points. Like maybe instead of starting, like maybe we just start with those like top two rungs of the ladder. So maybe it goes to like, the 50K projects and up. And then in the future, we say, okay, now any 25K projects roll in. Like it would, am I answering your question?
What I'm wondering is how would it work from an ordinance?
So we'd have to go back and make an amendment to the ordinance, but you would basically just kind of like select subsets of the chart and
Okay.
just start with only some piece of the chart, and then we'd have to go back and amend it to expand it.
Is there a risk that if we stair step it, that we're gonna?
You have to go to the Energy Commission every time you do this. So that's the downside is essentially if you want to add something again, It goes back to the
Yeah.
ordinance and you have to go back to the Energy Commission, so you
So-
can do it.
We could also do just like a phased implementation
So I was
timeline.
wondering
was
too,
my
like,
question.
That's
do we wanna
another-
just?
We're thinking
So you
same
could
thing.
do
Yeah.
it so that,
You do
first 2
6
years.
months or a year, whatever,
Yeah.
and then next
Yeah.
phase is.
yeah, that
Could
would
you-
work, and then, and that you'd have everything in the ordinance. So there's a chart, it's on page, I'm not sure the pages are not, 12, it's on page
I think the page numbers are at the bottom.
13 of the ordinance. There's the chart.
Yeah.
So you basically can just, do that as a phased implementation of
Yeah.
when that is. So we can talk tomorrow about however you would like that to do, but
That's what I would recommend.
probably it would be better
Yeah.
to do it as a
That's
phased
all.
implementation as opposed to, because particularly with the AB 130 and the state law, there's, little sensitivity of things, and so it's a lot of extra work to go to the commission, Energy Commission with the ordinance and then go back like the next year saying, well, we've got a little bit more, et cetera. So it's probably more efficient, if we can use the term, to
And I
do
feel
this as a phased one. I would probably leave the all projects or whatever, and then you can, we can, look at this chart and see, what stays. The water heating package is only a couple of $100, so potentially that could stay. But then you could start sort of the points at 50,000. There's a number of ordinances that basically have the, 50 to 60,000, threshold. So that's a bit of a sweet spot, for where things start, for FlexPath.
And I would just think too, from a mental preparation for people, if they know, if somebody's smaller, okay, I've got a year,
To prepare.
and contractors and all that kind of stuff, just it feels like we're,
Understanding it a little better.
yeah, they've got some time to sort of, or, not that I'm supposing anybody wants to sneak anything in, but just, I feel like if people know that it's coming,
What's
it
kind of
makes it
similar how.
easier to accept and prep for it.
Makes sense. That's reasonable. Okay, so Chair and also Commissioner Duda, who would like to go first?
She asked my question.
Okay.
so.
These are all like
Twinsies tonight.
city ordinances, right? It's
Correct,
not-
yeah,
not
City of
the-
Palm Springs.
I mean, any of the going small or big doesn't reach anything with Riverside or.
Correct,
or
yeah, it's all
so
just internal.
mostly Palm Springs. And what about nearby towns? Like, do they have any kind of reach programs that they have?
Good question. No. So we would be the first ones in the Coachella Valley to do this. Not uncommon for Palm Springs to be leading on sustainability issue. The city of Moreno Valley in Riverside County, David was telling me, has passed a reach code that is more targeted than this. So it's an AC to heat pump conversion reach code, which we can't actually do in our climate zone because of cost effectiveness considerations, because of how we use heating and AC here. It just doesn't pencil from the state methodology.
And small or big, it's still gonna target commercial,
So this is residential only for right now.
residential only.
Yes,
Oh, I
so
thought- I thought initially you
commercial-
said it's all.
Right, so commercial would have to be a different approach. So that would be
That
sort of
was
like the
my-
next thing
My
to do.
just question,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, so this is residential, single family residential only. So
So why are we doing residential first?
because
Because it's more residential.
there's more buildings.
More,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's more buildings and there's more old residential buildings than there are old and there's a smaller number of commercial buildings and they're addressed in a slightly different manner because they're used in wildly different fashions. And so we would instead set a broader target for them and say, do whatever you gotta do to hit this 10% energy.
Because I was thinking like in scale or efficiency, businesses may be able to like, maybe see how it works with commercials and then kind of have more efficiency and then get to.
Yes, and I mean, I think it's just the projects that you do in residential and commercial are quite different in terms of like what energy efficiency implementations you would do. So yes, there will be contractor education that would happen because they're doing the commercial projects, but there's,
Totally different.
I think it would be great to have both, but I think if we do them in relatively quick succession, we'll be able to do that too. Okay, so heard that we would like to consider a phased timeline approach where the first projects that are required to enter are the high dollar projects. And then over the subsequent couple of years, have the smaller dollar projects phase in. Does that sound correct with the direction? Okay, cool. And I'm not asking you to vote on it, it's just kind of general direction for future staff as we continue to work on
I
it.
do have one more question. on
Sure,
affordability.
absolutely.
Is there's some kind of estimate at how much these things are gonna cost, these bundles?
Yes.
So when you say there's gonna be, we could do a cost cap at 20% or something, we already know what these numbers are gonna be.
We have the estimates. So when so anything that goes into this reach code has to be determined cost effective, which means over the life of the system or the upgrade that you save more money in your utility bills than you spend up front. The state, because this is how they actually do the whole state building and energy code too, there's a prescribed methodology that the state uses in order to determine that. So they do a big research process every 3 years, they gather new data, they make a calculator, and then we use that calculator to see what's cost effective and what isn't based on a centralized set of data and assumptions. When we look at our own permit data, you can get, like, somebody can pay like $10,000 for one project that a different person paid $100,000 for. Like, there is so much variability, and this is true everywhere. So much variability in building cost questions that it is inherently an assumption. We think we know how much it should cost to do this work. So in terms of doing a cost cap, that would be something that we do have a data set of averages based on costs from our region that say how much this generally costs. So could you have a situation where we set a cost cap based on that standardized number? Absolutely. And I think that would probably be the most defensible way to do it. But somebody could come in and say like, well, I got quoted $25,000 for that HVAC upgrade that you said should only cost me $8,000. But, you know, because of whatever, you know, so that's, you get into some variability there. That's hard to predict, but we would have something that we could use as like generally source of truth, or that the state uses as a source of truth. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions on this?
Actually, I just have,
Vice Chair.
that popped into my head. When you have complexes with HOA buildings, which are all separate from, what would they be classified
It
as?
depends on the ownership structure and how they're classified under the state building code. So luckily, we would have a way to check that like within our zoning and state building code. So usually if it's a separated structure with separated ownership, it's classified as a single family home. But there are some little complexities, but the state building code already has like every building already knows how they're classified under the state building code. So I don't know if you have anything else to add
No, I
there.
mean, there are definitions of single family, because this is an add-on to the existing energy code. There's, I don't know how many pages, the new code 25 code is like 700 pages with tons of definitions. It's the lawyers, you know, either dream or nightmare. And obviously the building folks
I'm
know how to sort of
asking is-
interpret things, and there's guidance from the Energy Commission. So we're not reinventing the wheel. The things that are defined are already defined under state law.
Okay, but what I'm asking is HOA separate buildings. like we
Right,
have
so
in
I
many-
can't, there are gonna be some HOAs where they're gonna be classified
Varies.
as single family and some where they won't be. It's hard for me to tell right now. Generally speaking, that would probably be qualified as a single family, but the way to check that would be for each individual HOA to work with the building department and see like what's it listed as in our zoning and building code.
So would that mean
We already know what it is. I just can't tell you off the top of my head. what that
all the homeowners for that amenity center or whatever it is would be charged?
So if it's
That's
not
what I'm-
for a home, then it would, so basically the way that the reason that this is drafted to look at single family homes is so we don't get into areas around common costs and common charges here. So for example, if you're doing an upgrade to an amenity center, if that's not considered a home, then
It wouldn't
this
count.
this
That's
wouldn't
what I
qualify.
did- Yeah.
Yeah.
that's fine.
So, but there are like edge cases where maybe like condos sometimes get a little tricky with like building code requirements and
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. But generally speaking, this should be drafted, this has been drafted to avoid those kind of common shared expenses kind of things. Okay, great. Thank you. Very helpful guidance and direction. I appreciate you all's continued support. And now next time you guys can give the presentation to me. Because you've heard it so many times. So I'm very glad. David, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, let's touch base. I'll stick around, and then we'll just touch base about, next steps.
Great, sounds good. Okay, thank you all.
Thanks for coming, David. So next item is new business, and the first topic is the active transportation presentation and how the recommendation was to vote to create an ad hoc subcommittee. So wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that, and also is there someone who'd like to take the lead on that?
So if you don't mind, I'd like to just provide like a little bit of additional context for the group. I know I think some of our subcommittees may have heard some of this, but just to kind of build on some of the things that were shared by our presenters, so thank you very much. So we do have a couple of studies underway that we're at a good time to help us consolidate more feedback about how we do projects generally. So there's kind of, I think one of the things that one would need to think about for this ad hoc subcommittee is what do we focus on? So do we focus on specific pain point projects? Do we focus on kind of citywide programmatic layers like wayfinding and education? Do we focus on, making sure that we have a good process for how we review any new road reconfiguration projects? Like, there's a number of different things, as we've seen in the number of subcommittees that we have, like, we have the subcommittee on working with other commissions, like that's a process piece, whereas we have the ad hoc on, leaf blowers and bird strikes, which are very targeted education pieces. So we can go a number of ways based on what we think is the most useful. What I would say is that we have this pending federal funding, which I know everyone's going to be like, LP, why are you still saying you think you have that money? I do think we have money. But also a need identified, and if we don't get this money, we'll get some different money to update all of our streets manuals. So that's our non-motorized transportation manuals, our traffic calming manuals, all these things. That's a really good place for us to look at, like standardizing intersections, standardizing wayfinding, like anything that's kind of a citywide thing. And I think having a subcommittee that is ready to help us do that is really helpful. So folks who are already paying attention, experiencing these things, as staff, we also do, like I also ride my bike and walk a lot, got a lot of feedback for that plan when it's time. But looking at some of those things, the other thing is the heat and shade study, which we've already talked about. Maybe it has a home with climate action, but it is fundamentally a transportation plan. So thinking about how we get feedback from our active transportation users and bring that in there is really helpful. I would say in terms of impacting specific projects, that's something where we plan to bring, if an ad hoc subcommittee is voted on by the commission, we plan to staff that with a representative from the engineering department to bring that feedback in and bring those projects to the table for that discussion. Do I have the answer as to kind of how we get upstream of every project? No, I don't have it right now, but that's something that could be discussed and worked on. But I think what I would recommend as most helpful, as we've seen from some of our other subcommittees, is looking at those upstream plans, helping us understand those connecting layers that help us solve some of those specific pain points, like how do we use standardized wayfinding? How do we make sure we've got those connections to the CV link, those kind of things. So those are just the pieces that are already moving within city staff, that group of commissioners and community advocates, and also wanting to make sure that we've got good representation from, if there's communities that we want to make sure that we're connecting Desert Highlands in, we should have someone from Desert Highlands on the subcommittee. So we should kind of think about some of those things as well. So that's all I will say about that. And now you guys can decide what you want to do.
I would say if we're going to do a subcommittee for active transportation, that we get a mission or focus as to what it's going to do. I don't want to, I want a specific, we'll do this subcommittee, it will accomplish this, this, and this. Because I think we'll be more successful doing it that way. At least that's my opinion.
I guess it's kind of the same. I agree. Sorry, Chair, you're gonna dislike what I'm gonna say probably. I feel like, so I'll preface this by saying, I feel like we have a lot of subcommittees, and I think that's fine, but I don't know too, if this is better to placed under the climate action as part of the broader, no?
No,
Okay,
I don't think so.
okay,
I think there's enough,
enough to do.
no, not to do with climate. I mean, it does and it doesn't, but there are enough pieces of active transportation that would just, it would become, climate action would become active transportation.
Yeah.
I don't know, just based on what LP has said, there's all these other, like, I wasn't thinking about the heat and shades study and how that's, all these things are impacted. I think one of the goals that I was hoping that I want to do, that we should be doing as a commission, improving on, is interacting with engineering and other folks. There's all these things that are being worked on behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And it doesn't feel like there's this interconnect of, you know, it was brought up that there's a plan being made and it's not incorporating active transportation. We have the CV link. How are we connecting the CV link to be able to tie in certain areas? I know it's a work in progress, right? So how do we make sure that the voice is heard, that these things are moving? And I agree that we need to have some direction. I think once like the first thing the committee would do would be to sit down, if there's a representative from engineering, go listen, what are the priorities? What are we gonna do? I mean, there's a lot of like, it's never ending, right? I mean, climate action, never ending, wicked problems. But I think active transportation isn't as wicked as it seems. It's just, there's a lot that needs to be done. You know, that's like, you fix sidewalks, you add more bike lanes and you know, I think it's a manageable thing, but I think there's a lot that can be taken care of. It's just the bandwidth of this commission.
Yeah.
I can't personally, I'm always the first to say I'm a yes man, so, but I can't do any more subcommittees. So
Yeah,
it's
that's where, yeah.
interesting parties that are willing to be present and active to help push this along. Because I think it's important because I bike pretty much every day. I see the problems that the active transportation group brought up and I agree, like, let's address them. And how do we make work with our people that work for us? We're taxpayers. We are citizens. They come to work for us, right? LP comes to work for us. Benito comes to work for us. But we also have to hold them accountable and kind of go, oh, wait a minute, in this plan, you need to make sure we have some bike paths and bike paths and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's where we could work to kind of help improve that and that's why I asked our speakers is like, what do you want from us? Because I think that's kind of our main goal.
Yeah.
I think that was a little long. I sorry
No.
I interrupted you too, but
No, I mean,
yeah.
you've convinced me.
I don't necessarily want to create another group, but I think
you've
and
convinced
how
me.
it ties into like sustainability is a lot of things. It's not only greenhouse gas emissions, but it's you know, how are we treating our lower income communities because they are impacted. Like they have bigger impacts. People that have money can just kind of buy their way out of it at some point, some levels in life. But we have to make sure that I think we need to cover those. We need to make sure we're thinking about everyone in our community. So I like the idea that the active transportation is thinking about James O'Jesse. It's like, how do you connect that? So people that can't afford, that are riding bikes because they have to, how are they getting, or, you know, walking a safe path that they can get into town to buy food because they live in a desert, food desert. I mean, there's all these things that kind of filter down. So sorry, that was a long.
No, that was very well
I
said.
just think it's important.
Yes.
I think it's really important.
So I see Vice Chair and then Commissioner, just two quick things that I'll just add from my perspective, just very briefly. One is, yes, I think where we've started to see subcommittees be most useful and how this becomes different from, for example, just sending an email to your council member, or like we did have a pretty big public process around our road reconfigurations for South Palm Canyon and Racket Club. They yielded different things in different ways. Setting up a structure such as a subcommittee so staff can have sustained engagement with actively engaged members of the community to solve a problem. Like if you read any newspaper in any city in the country, there's drama about the bike lanes. Like no one has figured out like a good way to do community engagement around active transportation issue. Like I don't even know why it's such a flash. Like it seems like this should be easier than it is. But this is a challenge that every city has. But having an opportunity for members of the community to work with staff to improve those processes, understand some of those things, as opposed to like what I think might be challenging is if this kind of becomes like a list of things next to another list of things that we had. It's like prioritization has to happen. Like we can't do all projects all the time. So thinking about, you know, how do we help create a better prioritization framework? Like, do we need a, you know, quick response team for bike and sidewalk projects? Do we need, you know, like all these kind of like, how do we get upstream of the symptoms and look at better ways to do this work. I think that's the kind of thing that I think would be most useful, just based on my experience, like having done this. And then the second thing is, especially to the extent that we want to continue to lean in on the areas where we know we have transportation issues, which are going to come up in the heat and shade study and all that stuff. I do want to underline that I think we need representation. I think that would be a good opportunity for our ad hoc subcommittee, if we form one, to seek specific representation from those communities, which may not be represented at the table tonight. Okay, so I have Vice Chair, then Commissioner Cohen, then Max. Sorry, Commissioner Jordan. We'll have the Vice Chair. Yeah. Vice Chair first. Yeah, go ahead.
So again, what I see in my mind is maybe these two gentlemen, someone from Desert Highland Estates, and maybe one commissioner come together and form an ad hoc, but when they form it with certain goals they want to do, because
Yep.
it frustrates me if we're going to just go all over and try to, because you're just not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, and I think the ad hoc subcommittee on pesticides is a good example where that was the first couple of meetings has been setting up a charter. So it's a good example of how that's been working. Commissioner?
And I'm thinking about having some sense of how many different interest group or people or positions would be on such a subcommittee. And do we do that now?
You don't have to do it now.
But then we don't really know where we're going unless, yeah, that's, I mean, I agree with you that we have to know, I think, initially. And then when we work with our partners, I guess we'll learn more, but is this gonna be 3 people, 10 people, 15 people, 20 people?
No.
I think that is up to the subcommittee to decide. I think the reason I've just been like underlining that need for representation on, especially depending on the types of projects that you want to do, I think just making sure that we're mindful of how we relate to the community that we want to help. That was just the main reason because you don't have to have anybody else on this. You can just do it with commissioners and
But
the
then you're
folks who've
doing
been.
You're doing all the work.
Well, I'm not doing anything.
I mean.
Yeah. Yes, but yes, you're right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. I think it's a good question that the commission should feel free to debate. We have Commissioner Judah next.
Which is similar in the beginning, I did mention, like, is planning commission involved or anybody, like, and in my head, I was thinking, well, I know there's a problem, there's a solution that we need to come up with. Maybe we may not be the best, and is there another department like a transportation, somebody really does. I don't really ride the bike much. I mean, I did that in 2020, but not anymore. So I don't see the problems that, that you guys have. So we may not be able to be the best kind of, people for that. So maybe having you guys with, some expert that creating your own, I don't know if there's another department, but is there planning to have their own subcommittee or
Question.
the engineering or transportation?
So we don't have a transportation department here. So all of these issues are handled within our larger engineering department in close collaboration with sustainability. So Christian was our lead person on it. In terms of like planning where certain things would go or like making a map, so that was Christian's role. So when we have new Christian, we will have someone to reassume that. So it's usually a collaboration between sustainability and engineering. Engineering doesn't have their own commission. I think they've very intentionally kept it that way. Planning department gets more involved on a really, really high level.
Yeah.
So in terms of like when they're making the zoning code. So like there would definitely be opportunities probably for engagement with specific projects, but the staff you would need and the expertise in the city side would need to be in that engineering and sustainability working together. So that's why we're the place that the council members recommended that our community advocates come to advocate for this. It's the most relevant commission. Commissioner?
My feeling is that all of this should wait. I mean, because we have change in personnel here. We're going to have a new change in personnel. They're going to have different perspectives. And then we'll have a new additional personnel who we don't have. And it seems like it's time to wait for this to before we do anything. I mean, We have other people who are coming to us for other commissions, you pesticide. And we're stretched. So it seems to me best to wait for this, not forever, but until we have some settling as to what is the department. And how the department is related, and how the department and the commission work together on these sorts of issues. And also the commission, we're actually larger now than we were during the summer because there's more people here. This is the first meeting we've had most of the commissioners all here. So I think we need a little more time for these sorts of things to be part of a discussion.
I agree, but I don't think, I think it would be helpful to maybe have more conversations with the people that we would be collaborating with, so that we begin to build some kind of a better holistic understanding of what it's gonna look like. Because I know it's needed, it's just how to, for me right now, it's conceptually fuzzy. So,
okay.
yeah, so I think if we just maybe one person or someone from this
Like an
group
ambassador?
of leads, yes, just starts a conversation. And then we move to a formal structure of the subcommittee as we begin to have a better notion of what this is gonna look like.
That's it. I think I saw your tag go up first. Okay, yes, I'll
So-
have vice chair and then commissioner.
I agree with you. I think we can move ahead with the conceptual part of it and working with active transportation and really get an idea of what's out there and then form the subcommittee. I mean, I don't want to just not do anything, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah, I guess
get rid of it entirely, but we don't need to form a subcommittee right now. I don't think it's a good time for that.
maybe 60 days or something like that.
Well,
to-
first forward.
Yeah.
Can we invite the active to
Okay,
come
you guys are
join
welcome
us
to come up
and-
if you want. Yeah.
No, no, like
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
I'm their
And if
own
you have
kind of-
questions for them, you're welcome to ask them.
I mean, not technically now, like,
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
like
okay.
in general, like, can we invite
Yeah.
the transport, the
Oh,
active
so
transportation
that-
to become part of
That's-
it?
just like to say one thing.
Sure.
We do have a group of 6,
Would you
7
mind coming up
people.
just for the audio because we have a Zoom and recording?
And the
Thank you.
mic.
We do have a group of about 6, 7 people that are meeting, past commission members and one past commission chair of this commission. We meet regularly and we've been working for a year and we'll continue to work. We were asked by the electeds actually to come to you to formally do that because that will help them work with us. But we'll continue to work. If you guys want to take time and kind of feel more comfortable with us, that's great. But our work's going to continue because things are happening and we want to make sure they don't happen wrong.
Yeah, we want to help you. We just don't know how we can, like, how we can do that. Like, we want to be able to kind of improve on that, on the active
Mhm.
transportation. We just don't know how
So
to create it.
does a member of this commission need to be on our committee? I guess that's the first
Well,
question.
so there's a couple of proposals that I think I'm hearing. So one is that we go ahead and form the ad hoc subcommittee with a subset of 1 to 3 commissioners. So we could vote to do that tonight. We could vote to have 1 or 2 commissioners come and join in on the next couple of meetings. And then the commissioners and the committee bring a proposal back at the December or January meeting and say, this is what we think it needs to be. These are the other people that we want to have on this. So there, you could either do, and I think they kind of yield the same goals personally. I think it's just a matter of, because we do have 6 other subcommittees that are going, we're having staff transitions. It's kind of a question of, do you want to do the search and explore method first? Or do you want to kind of stand up the structure and build the plan as you fly? So it's
can
kind
I-
of either one.
Can I have a point of clarification? Is there a difference between ad hoc and subcommittee?
So ad hoc is the structure that we use where we have commissioners and members of the public on the same group.
Mhm.
That's just, it functions as a subcommittee. It is not an official statutory piece because that requires like a change to like the city charter
Okay.
to do that. So functionally from a working group perspective, no, there's
This
no
is it. It's
difference.
just a title.
It's just a title.
Okay.
Which is how we title
Well,
things.
there's more engagement with the community.
Right, yeah, there's
With the
explicitly
subcommittee
generally
as opposed to.
Ad
with an ad
With
hoc.
an ad hoc, okay.
That's generally where we have like people from the public.
In the committee.
Yeah.
Ad hocs can be temporary, like once the project is done, once the goals are achieved, we can kind of like
So the subcommittee is mostly commissioners.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. That's the difference.
Are you guys commissioners or anything, or just,
No.
you just
Community
citizens that are
members.
community?
But like I said, we do have past commissioners that were on this commission and a past chair. So I mean, the people in our committee are familiar with how you operate and what you've done. I mean, you know, we are.
If at this point, do you have anybody from the engineering department or anything that's coming into your meetings? Or having an ad hoc subcommittee will ensure that the engineering personnel from the engineering department will be at the table?
The second. So
Well, we're
that's,
looking forward to that.
so having an engagement through, I mean, there's no reason why someone from engineering couldn't go, but setting up that structure would be how we would do that. However, if we want a little bit of time to talk with engineering to identify the right person, to figure out who from our staff is gonna staff it, like I think either approach will yield, in my opinion, the same outcomes. It just kind of depends on which part you wanna do first, I think. Based on my experience, yes.
Kind of went through your second option. The beginning sounded like it made, and I kind of lost you, but.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So
I
run
don't know,
through it
it's been a
again.
really
No,
weird
no,
day.
that's okay. Run through it again
So-
because it sounded.
There's the build the plane in the air option, and then there's the send the submarine to look for the treasure option. These are like kind of the way, no,
Neither
it's,
one of them.
and both of them yield bike lane. So basically, I think it's a question of, do we want to, I think it also, I think it kind of depends on, how many commissioners today want to raise their hand and say, I'm ready to do more on this as like a person who will, like, I will raise my hand to do it. If there's 1 to 2 people who are, and we're like, we still want to feel it out, that's the submarine approach, where you go and attend 1 or 2 active transportation committee meetings. And then you all, maybe like 1 to 2 of you with some subset of you all come together and are like, okay, so based on that, do we want to make a new, more specific proposal to the group? Or do we want to just say, hey, we got 3 or 4 commissioners who are like, cool, let's figure it out. We want to help write a mission statement. We want to figure out who else we want to get, and we just want to get the work going. Then you all would select, probably, I think having all 6 of you join would be unwieldy from maybe a scheduling perspective, but you guys can kind of decide on how we want to do this for the subcommittee, and then you just sort of start working.
When do you have
So-
your meetings?
And then
So
we'll have
can-
chair.
Can we?
Sunday
can we-
mornings
Yeah.
at
Can we
Ristretto.
Step back
Yes.
really quick. I think,
Sorry, we've got chair first.
we should decide, and I'm just looking at the clock.
Yeah.
And we have a lot to get through, is we have 2 options. We have form an ad hoc, and what I'm hearing is relatively from the majority, it doesn't sound like that's the way we want to start. 2 is we get someone find out who's interested in going and meet with these guys, folks, not generalizing, and see how to focus an ad hoc and see where we can help. Because what it sounds like is the active transportation group needs a bridging between the public and staff, which I think is a good thing for the commission to be doing, in my opinion. And I personally think the second is the best way to approach, is we're doing that with what's our new term for the pesticide-free Palm Springs. And it's learning, the sharing of information, but also then connecting with staff. So, it may not be in December, but, holidays are coming, maybe in January, it's kicked off, and we have a new person that's in, and that's one of the first kind of transportation things that ties in with Heat and Shade and all these other things that we're working on, and kind of helps tie in all those other pieces of work together. So I think those are the 2 options. So I think if no one disagrees, is maybe we vote on those, or do we find out who would want to take the lead to meet? Yeah, thank you. And just kick off from there. Because I think what it sounds like, what I'm hearing is that the active transportation has been working with council and other city staff. And they're saying, hey, listen, we need to improve the process by engaging with sustainability. If I'm
No, yeah.
Good summary. I'm
Sorry.
sorry, I'm think I've maybe lost a little bit who's next, but I think I know Chair or Commissioner, if you'd like to say something.
I want to know what active transportation is.
How do you
Is
all
it,
define
is
green?
is it including a whole variety of forms of transportation?
From walking to,
Active transportation is recognized by government institutions as being non-motorized transportation. How to serve the community without cars.
With, you have an active committee.
Yes.
Does it have multiple types of transportation in there?
Yes,
Including walking.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Since no one else has expressed interest, I do have my bike helmet. I biked here tonight. I would at least attend the meetings to help sort of facilitate an ad hoc committee if we want to go that direction.
Great, thank you for stepping up. I appreciate it. Does anyone else want to raise their hand in the short term?
I want to ask him a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Even if it isn't a straight out from tonight ad hoc committee.
Yeah, that's why I said I attend meetings and we can see if we want to form an ad hoc committee in
Okay.
the future.
I
So you would
thought
be
you
the-
said you wanted it to be an ad hoc committee right now.
You'll be the point person for you'll be the captain of the submarine.
Yes. I will take the summary. and-
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. You still didn't get the summary.
You said treasure, right?
Yeah,
and
treasure is,
summary?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So that sounds good.
Yes. Okay, good. Yes.
do we vote on that? Or can
I
we just move
think
forward
you
with
don't
that?
have to vote on that. I think if everyone, there's kind of a general consensus that makes sense. If anybody, does anybody have any strong opinions?
I think that's a great
Re-summarize.
way.
Re-summarize. Okay, so to summarize, we will have Commissioner Frick attend the next 1 to 2 meetings of the Active Transportation Committee. And I would say probably reasonable to agendize either for December or January, a report back where y'all come back and everyone, I'm hearing January, makes a more, like a sort of a summary findings.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, I would say
Commissioner
Jane,
and-
yeah.
And that
Yeah.
there's also,
Thank you.
and one of the new.
yes,
staff
with new staff.
with the
correct.
new- would be also tuning into this group.
You make that perfect.
Okay,
So, and then in January, I think I'll put it on the agenda to revisit, and then we can just move forward. I think that's the way. Thank you, Commissioner, for taking that lead.
And thank you for your patience.
Sure. And will you put us in contact?
yes, Benito's probably the best person to do that.
Oh, great.
But yes, that works too.
Yes. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Sorry, so the next item is Director McCloy's departure. Director McCloy, should we go over greenhouse gas emissions first?
I think
and
so.
then-
Both will be fast though.
Okay,
Those
great.
were our media stuff.
Okay,
so.
thank you.
Okay, so did anybody read the thing?
I started looking.
Okay, cool. I just know, and it's not, this is not a quiz. It's just, I want to know how to talk about this.
Skimmed it.
I didn't, because I told you you kind of didn't have to. So I was just like, but if anybody was like, no, I read it and I have questions, I wanted to know that. So, okay, great. So high level summary. So I've been talking, oh, golly, I'm running out of water. So I've been talking for a little while about how we are roughly on cycle to update our climate action roadmap and do new greenhouse gas inventories. I know this is something that former Chair Clark was very passionate about. So we've been focused on this for a while. All of us are passionate about it. We want to know how we're doing. CVAG, as part of a project with Riverside and San Bernardino counties, was awarded some EPA funding about 18 months ago to complete a greenhouse gas inventory for all of the cities in the Coachella Valley and do a preliminary climate action plan based on how far that greenhouse gas inventory showed that we were from our 2050, 2045 targets. And I was like, awesome. I love free because free is great. And also not having to do our own contracts is also great. So all signs point to go. So the team that so their consultants and CVAG have been working for about 18 months to prepare greenhouse gas inventory and this analysis. The process was roughly collective, but CVAG was kind of, I mean, at a certain point, it's like, I send them an Excel spreadsheet and then they do math. Like, I don't need to be in the room all the time. So they were cooking on some of those for a little while. Greenhouse gas inventorying, when we have Desert Community Energy and Edison and SoCal Gas, is a little bit complicated. I will say I have medium confidence in our inventory numbers. They do show that we may have some more opportunities to reduce our electricity emissions beyond just DCE. And that could be, getting more participation in DCE, getting more solar and batteries. There's a number of things we can do, but we're doing okay on our emissions. We're not doing awesome, but we're doing okay. Considering the way that the economy has changed and how a lot of cities have really seen their inventories go through the roof, could be worse. It's fine. It's good to have the data. Then when you look at the analysis of how close our programs get us to our 2045 goals, so we basically did that by filling out a template of like, here's a bunch of programs you can do. Check them off on the list. We took a relatively conservative approach and only checked things off on the list that we were already committed to doing, either in our roadmap or in our climate action plan or sustainability plan from 2016. We knew that this wasn't going to be enough because all of those things are targeted based on the information we had at the time. We know we have more work to do. We just wanted to know how much more work do we have to do? Which sectors are we going to be falling short? How many new programs do we want to develop? So what we've seen is that in the building sector, based on our current commitments, because we haven't committed to a specific plan for commercial buildings yet, we haven't necessarily done certain requirements around renewable energy for commercial buildings yet. We've committed to them, but we haven't started working on them. We've got more work to do on buildings. So we're currently, if we just did only what we're doing today, we're not going to hit our 2045 goals. Big surprise. We knew that. But on transportation, a lot of what's happening at the state level, assuming that all of those programs don't go away because various courts and things, there's not as much additional work we need to do on transportation as there is on building decarbonization. And that makes sense because transportation is fundamentally not regulated by localities. So we don't have that much power when it comes to regulating what kind of cars people drive in our community. The state does, federal government does, but we don't. So we can do things like add more EV chargers. We can do things like, our shade plan for transportation to encourage more things, have a better active transportation network. But really the thing that moves the needle on vehicle emissions is statewide truck emissions mandates and statewide vehicle emissions mandates, kind of like the clean cars rules and things like that. So what we saw from the analysis, and this is true for all Valley cities, is that we have to do a little bit of extra work. And on buildings, we have to do more extra work because the state sets those energy codes, but anything with regards to REACH codes, local building standards, that kind of stuff, that's all on us. So, which is good because that's where we have the authority to do the work. We will need to do more work on managing emissions for off-road transportation. So that's like construction equipment. So that's something that we'll need to start thinking about. But basically what the report says is we have more work to do. And so what happens now is that future me and new Christian and future and Ben current, Ben today and Ben tomorrow, will take that report and use it to build out a next version of our climate action plan. So we'll take our climate action roadmap, which has a lot of targeted initiatives. It's not as holistic as some climate action plans are where they look at everything. This was kind of like, here's like 15 top things that we're working on. So we're going to build on that by saying, here's the progress that we've made. Here are the initiatives that are ready to be born, such as REACH codes for residential, and then use that to focus the council, our commission, and our community on our next steps. So I think a good example there would be building performance standard for commercial buildings that we kind of discussed a little bit earlier. That's that like target thing that I was saying you ramp down for commercial. That would be a good example. Expanding access to community shared solar and battery storage. So that way people who can't put solar on their own roof, whether because they live in a multifamily structure or they can't afford it, can have access to those things. Like a number of different things that we can do, but basically that would undertake a new planning process. That would be a lot of work for the climate action subcommittee next year, I would imagine. And so that's kind of where we're at with this GHG report. So it's like, no work stops with this report. It gives us a lot of work to do, but it gives us more direction on the work that we need to do. So I'll pause there. What thoughts do folks have? General questions? I'm not quite sure what that expression was telling me. Yeah.
So I noticed it was a draft document.
Yes.
So when is it scheduled to be finalized?
That's a really good question. And I don't have the answer.
And then my second question is, what does the city actually do with it?
Yeah, good question.
I'm very sus, so.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think that it depends on what I would have done with it is take it.
No conversation selected.
Yes, exactly. Agree. No, what I would have done is take that, spend a lot of time with it as staff, dig into some of the specific recommendations, and then work with the subcommittee to start a plan for updating our climate action roadmap in January. So basically,
And then, again, my question is, what does the city do with that? I mean,
I don't know how to answer your
I
question.
hear a lot, yeah, and I think that's staff's, like, how's that being incorporated into general plan, the building code, or whatever other things? I mean, to reduce those. I guess my question is, we all here think about it, but what do other, and that's why I was hoping your boss was gonna be here, is, and maybe another question to ask when he is here is how they, I hear the mayor say sustainability is, overarching, but then things are done that are not. They actually impact, certain projects that impact greenhouse, that have an impact on the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. And I just don't know that the thought mode, your staff, your team, and you have done a lot of work on these reports, and then where does it go from there? It's not that it's not being done, because I learn, facilities and building are looking at,
Might give me charger problem, my next.
they're looking at, they are doing things to look at reducing impacts, to making buildings more energy efficient, and et cetera, but the bigger picture eludes me. And I'm not speaking for the commission, but just sometimes I wonder. So it's like, and how do we as a commission maybe push that again? You think about that when you're adding a data center or a whatever those things are, where Amazon distribution center in our city. It's I think those impacts are great. So and they're long-term impacts. So it's like we're looking at short economic gains versus long-term impacts. So that's my own, and I'm maybe taking.
I can just tell you from,
Well, I saw a flag from
Oh, I'm
Commissioner Boyd
sorry.
first, sorry.
Sorry, so
No.
I agree, and I think just from a execution standpoint, I don't know too, if this is something then where a piece of this, because it is, I think it is bigger, but a piece of this then comes into the sort of outreach piece that we're doing, it's like, how are we actually taking these things and, I don't know, creating talking points, but how are we then operationalizing it in our sort of subcommittee to the extent we can, and maybe that's something we need to
Drill down on.
like how do we actually, these big things that are coming out, have them
That's
do the
actually-
big things they're supposed to be
actually,
doing.
that's a good point. So,
Vice Chair?
see,
And then-
is
then
it
I'll
that
launch into my
we're
soliloquy.
taking recommendations, and do they go to the city council? Do they go to engineer? Who do they go to, and then what happens? I think I heard, and I may have mixed it up, talks of a data center, and the city council is looking at it like that's gonna bring jobs in, but a data center, and I know, because I work for a large corporation, you bring a data center in, you better have a whole lot more transformers, electricity, because it's gonna suck up the electricity. So,
And so I want to just clarify, I don't know of a particular
I-
data center project, and
yeah, I
like, if it's
heard.
just a
that-
notional, I don't,
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
can't
no, I
speak
heard
on.
there might be. there
Mostly
was
just because
stuff.
we have our colleagues in
But
the
even
council,
if
so,
they
but
don't
yeah.
do
That was
that.
that was
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
a
Even if they
thought
don't
of-
do
Yeah.
that, some of these other things that come in,
I know.
like
Bombs out.
Amazon.
Sorry.
Yeah, commercial.
So,
data center.
And so there's, to me, there looks like there's a struggle between, okay, we bring these things in and it creates jobs, but it also is taking greenhouse. So,
all of you all have very elegantly summarized why my job is hard. Like, it's just like why, why this is like not already done. Like, some cities have, I think, a more sophisticated apparatus for this than others, but like, sometimes those don't even last more than like 2 to 3 years. So I think the task that is incumbent upon us is figuring out if we completely change how the city thinks about how it runs itself. And so the ways in which we have found that to be most successful, and I'm gonna try not to launch into a soliloquy on the nature of climate work, because Lord have mercy knows I've done that at least 5 times this week. Is figuring out how do we convene as many levers as we can. And so we've spent a lot of time getting to know those different levers, training other departments on like, yes, you have to understand that you have climate impact in your department. Yes, you have to understand planning commission that, well, they understand, but it's like, often people will see the information, receive it, understand that it's stressful and bad, and not know what to do next. So there is both a balance between empowering the people with control with those levers to do the things that they're able to do, because I can't be in every meeting and every decision. Benito can't be in every meeting and every decision, about where, what kind of transformer or vehicle or airport recycling bin is purchased. So, empowering the stakeholders in those departments to do some things themselves, but also you've identified a number of these things are multi-sector problems. So making sure that we are convening the right people to talk about the tools that we're going to use to impact our climate crisis so that they're thinking about it upstream enough. So I went on a journey with the Climate Action Subcommittee the other day, talking about a particular pain point example of like, why are we buying sometimes gas cars instead of electric cars? And sorry, Bernard, you're gonna have to share this for like 17th time. So, cause it's a really interesting case study. So, we have in our environmentally preferable purchasing rules, a statement that wherever practicable, we're going to buy an electric car instead of a gas car. Makes sense. We generally do this for a lot of our city fleet vehicles. Our fleet has become twice as electric over the past 2 years. It's great, I think. Kendall, don't quote me on that number. But I can cite it for you if you need me to. We have a lot more EVs than we used to. And we are looking for where we charge those EVs. One would think that the logical place to do that would be where we park all the cars at the city yard. However, the city yard is so electrically constrained that we can't even necessarily add a new like HVAC handling unit for the fleet shop. So then you get into, okay, do we upgrade the service line to the fleet? Well, that takes like 5 years to get into the interconnection queue. So then you go in and you say, okay, how do we make this building more energy efficient so it doesn't need as much power to run, because it's basically just a leaky metal galvanized metal building with the doors open all the time. So it's like, are there changes that we can make to reduce the energy that the building needs to make energy for the chargers? And so these are the kind of like things that we're working with our departments to understand. So it's like, actually, in order to make our fleet more electric, we have to solve a building energy efficiency problem first. So looking for those places where the problems become interconnected, going as far upstream as we can to find the root causes. And so that's when we start to convene council members, community members, all of our departments, looking through all of our department mechanisms. And then Benito and future me have to figure out how to help everyone see themselves within the climate crisis piece. There's only so much that cities can do, but there is a lot that cities can do. Cities can't solve the fact that our economy is now consolidating around data centers and fulfillment centers. Just like, if we don't have the fulfillment center in Palm Springs, does it just go to Desert Hot Springs and then not have access to desert community energy and the requirements that we're gonna have for a clean truck? Does that help? I don't know. I don't have that answer, but those are the kind of things that we think about. But also, what are the trade-offs for if we accept that into our community? Is it burdening a community of color, which is on the front line up there in the, by those roads and by all those things? Like, these are things that we have to think about and have. In order for government to be able to think about them meaningfully, we have to create a process to break them down into parts. So anyways, we need to make a working group in like 3 months is how we're going to use this report, I think, to answer your question short. I don't know if that helps at all.
I mean, there are ways to have success on building the economy. And is a good point of, if you do a fulfillment center, what are the things to make it as
best fulfillment center you can get.
Right. With solar, with parking for electric vehicles or whatever that, there are ways of getting around it. I'm not saying that the things that they're doing are bad. It's just, are they really thinking about what's being proposed is the best solution and how that, and you just mentioned the thought process of what your team does to go, hey,
well, and I think when you've mentioned thinking about working with other commissions, one of the things that people come to our team for a lot is they are like, how do I do this? Like, how do I operationalize sustainability? So giving people direction on like, here's how you can think about that. Like, here is how you, as a Measure J subcommittee, can meaningfully decide what's the most sustainable approach. Here's how a planning commission can get the most sustainable version of that project. So I think those kinds of things, that's how we also work with our departments as well. Like Ben works a lot with parks, be like, if you want to have a public event, here's how you have the most sustainable version of it. There's still a piece missing of like the forest for the trees, but it at least gets us somewhere.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know if that was useful. I kind of am like, what did I just say? Where am I?
And submarines and.
Yeah, exactly. Just get me back to the submarine. I'll be comfortable.
Building a plane as we take off. right?
Exactly. Yes, literally.
Sorry, I'm looking at the time too.
Yes.
Do we have any other more questions or comments on that? I do appreciate all the work that's been done on that.
I keep wishing it's a bad dream and you wake up and you're not really going.
Oh, don't do this to me again.
So with that segue, should we move to LPs?
I'll be very, very fast. So I've talked about a lot of this already. So I was gonna make you guys watch this really funny clip of my funniest day at work, which was when I got interviewed on KESQ to talk about whether you should put sand in the trash or not. It's really funny. I really recommend Googling KESQ McCloy sandbags. You will find it. It's hilarious because they literally were like, this is the slowest possible news day. They had me on TV pointing at a pile of sand and being like, don't put it here. Incredible stuff. But I just wanted to thank everyone for all of your guidance and support and collaboration over the years. And I look forward to feeling like the city is in incredible hands and supporting Benito and as he tirelessly works to rebuild the team from the ground up. And so thanks everyone for everything. And let me talk a little bit about specifically what we're doing to support Benito and also help the work continue. So we've talked about some of this already. One of our theories of change in our department is we try to do as few projects alone as possible. So because we're not always going to be the home of a project, we want to make sure that the departments who are going to do the project are involved from the beginning. So the tree ordinance is a really good example. So we've handed that off to the departments that are constituent to it. So planning, public works and code. That's going to come forward in the first quarter of next year, led by the departments. We don't even need to touch it anymore. We're done. So Benito might need to like put some stuff on the website, but that's it. So same thing as you heard us discuss, that our housing department is taking a lead role with the REACH codes because it's so closely related to the direct install energy efficiency program, which we co-developed with them. So making sure that we've got that expertise, but there. Planning department is going to be babysitting heat and shade study because that is fundamentally a set of planning interventions. So a lot of these kind of bigger flagship projects, Benito is going to have some support with the departments who are fundamentally at the end of the day going to be responsible for them. So there's a few different little examples there. Public Works off and running with working on sustainability for energy efficiency for public buildings. We do also have 2 new Juliets coming, probably in January. So one is actually going to sit in housing and one is going to sit in Public Works. And this has been the plan the whole time. So working within the departments to build that sustainability capacity there and support those champions who we've already identified in the departments who were basically like, you kind of know what you need to know, just go do it. So departments are really helping us with that. Hiring. So as you may have noticed, my job is posted. It has been for a couple weeks, open till December 5th. Please feel free to refer any candidates that you can think of. This commission is probably a great source of potential interested people. So if you know, or you've seen someone online who's writing you like, and you want to send them a note, they should apply or something like that. I'm happy to talk to folks because I'm not involved in the hiring process. I'm usually pretty antiseptic about it if I am involved, but I'm not. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to talk to them about it. And then also some support that we've been working on getting for Benito, other than just keeping him company, which you all are welcome to do. We'll have a little bit of administrative support on loan from the planning department for this commission. So Commissioner Barrett is the only person who's worked with Anita in the past, but Anita is going to be coming back to help us do things like minutes, which I haven't been doing so good, and helping take some of these tasks off of his plate. So I'm going to kind of defer to Benito on whether Anita will take an active role in scheduling for some of the ad hocs or anything like that. Benito will be the decider on that, but Anita is great. She runs admin for the planning commission. So, and she also ran admin for our commission for like 6 months. So she knows what she's doing. She's great. So she will be a good help for Benito and also on some of the admin side stuff with like invoicing and tracking finances and that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, I think we'll have a new specialist here pretty soon. We'll have a new director probably in the first quarter of next year would be my guess, hopefully earlier than later. Because I do think they're planning to move pretty quickly to keep this moving. So that is the transition plan.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Yes.
The city manager mentioned that an offer was in order soon. Is that,
For my job,
I don't know.
they haven't closed it yet, so I don't think so.
I think that was for.
Oh, I think he was mentioning because a number of interesting people have reached out to me interested in the role. So I think he was like, oh, we might have somebody cool, but
But the new
but for the new Christian, yes,
For the new
that
Christian.
offer
That,
is being.
that there is an offer.
Yes, I think, well, I gave all the paperwork for that to happen.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
hopefully it has been made, but HR actually does. We don't make the offers. the HR
Oh,
does.
of course.
Yeah, so for reasons.
So that's probably.
That's probably what he meant.
Yeah.
Any other questions or thoughts?
Okay, let's go to, thank you, LP, and we will miss you, and you know that. And you didn't say sorry, and I'm very proud of you.
Yes, I've been listening.
Subcommittee reports, and let's do these really quick. Erin, do you want to give the waste, just a summary of kind of what we did?
Yeah, no, excellent. So very quickly, the pesticide, some representatives from pesticides came. Linda Talley gave a presentation about the importance of sort of pesticide-free, particularly for the Palm Springs waste disposal. So sort of talked about some ideas about basically how we could coordinate, share information, make sure that they're sort of feeding information, I think, to Chairman Rodner's point of just us sort of helping sort of connect the dots and that sort of thing. So we'll be picking that up in a bit. And then some of the waste audits I know are going to be coming up. So stay tuned for some of that. And I think those are the highlights.
Yeah. And yes, thank you. And I think we're potentially adding the water department, but I think we'll see after the next
December.
presentation. Yeah. So kind of tag teaming that. And then for the climate action, I know we've gone over a lot of the stuff, the energy efficiency update. I think we've beat that to death today. So the heat and shade, which is also moving forward, and just the RFPs are out. And
Will be out soon.
will be out soon. So there's modeling, community engagement, urban design. So more to come in the beginning of the first quarter. I think most of that stuff we've already talked about. So just to glaze through that. And then what we're doing, I think, with the ad hoc updates is December we're gonna do updates quarterly. So in December, give full updates to the bird strikes, the leaf blowers. The one I just wanted to quickly mention is the pesticides, which Erin did mention. We did have a kickoff meeting on that, and we'll be meeting in December again. But that was a good meeting, talking about and doing research and kind of building a path to start reaching out to the city and sharing information with through PSDS is a tool in their flyer, which the group shared some information, which hopefully we can get into the next billing cycle, talking about ways to keep waste bins clean and preventing waste that brings in pests. So I think as we move forward on that, we'll just have more and more information to share with the community to prevent the use of harmful chemicals and how it impacts our environment. And then I'll give a more detailed report in December. And so now is the time for commissioners to just found a typo. There's so many things you gotta cover.
I know, it's really, this
Commission-
document is too.
I gotta highlight it. It's like, it says September. I'm like, we're in December. folks.
Yeah.
So we all have, commissioners have comments, 2 minutes to provide any requests for future agenda items. Shall we go around the table?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Kathy?
No.
So, I don't have anything, but it's going to be amazing with her not here. It's been a real pleasure. We've worked out very well and a lot of interesting work. It really shows how difficult it all is, so have fun.
Well, and good luck on your new job. And I don't have anything other than that.
Ditto here. I've said it every time I met you. And thank you. Keep in touch and never say sorry.
Best of luck. It's been wonderful. It's only been a couple months for me, but hope to, this not to be the end. So.
Thank
That's it. I
you,
don't have anything
and
else.
good luck, and please come back.
I will.
Visit.
Don't be-
Commissioner Walker.
I'm sad that you're leaving, but I'm happy you found something you want to do outside, so.
Thank you.
Doing good work.
Those are our comments for next agenda item, how to bring LP back.
That's a good one. I mean, just in terms of LP's mental health. I say we go to Pasadena and meet up for dim sum.
I think that sounds great. You're all welcome.
And with that, I'd like to see if there's a motion to adjourn and reconvene December 16th at 5:30. A motion?
Yes.
Second? So we will, motion meeting adjourned till December 16th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
You wanna do the thing with
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. let me- sorry. Thank you for bringing that up. though.
Who did I bring up?
With the mic stuff. It's fair to ask the question.
I can, yes, absolutely.
Thanks,
Linda. Thank you, Kendall.
Do we really need that?
Sorry.
I don't necessarily, see you, Max.
I know, it's true.
Yes. I didn't recognize it.
I am not looking at that.
But
He's
this is-
working with us.
I think there are a lot of overlapping.